"He is not unconscious," the maid whispered. "He is trying to warn us." Every head in the royal chamber turned toward Evelyn Harper, but no one moved. Outside Blackthorn Manor, rain struck the tall windows like thousands of impatient fingers. Inside, 30 physicians stood beneath silver chandeliers, their faces pale with exhaustion, their instruments arranged across long tables of black oak. At the center of the room, King Lucian Blackwood lay motionless beneath a dark velvet coverlet. The vampire king had survived wars, betrayals, and 3 centuries of enemies who had sworn to destroy him. Tonight, he was losing a battle no one could see. His skin, normally pale, had faded to the color of winter marble. Faint silver lines moved beneath it, branching slowly from his chest toward his throat. Each breath came later than the one before. Slower, shallower, less certain. Dr. Marcus Reed looked at Evelyn as though a chair had spoken. "Return to your duties." Evelyn tightened her grip on the folded towels in her arms. Her uniform was plain, her shoes worn thin from 12-hour shifts, and a loose strand of brown hair clung to her cheek. She knew how she appeared beside the royal healers in their embroidered coats. Small, uneducated, invisible. She had spent 2 years serving in this manor, and no one had ever asked what she noticed. But she had noticed everything. She noticed which servants hid trembling hands behind their backs. She noticed when the West Hall clocks lost 4 seconds during a storm. She noticed that the king's breathing changed whenever the physicians replaced the glass bottle beside his bed. And now she noticed his right hand. Beneath the coverlet, one finger moved against the carved wooden frame. Tap, tap, tap. A pause. Then again. 3 careful beats. Evelyn's heart struck hard against her ribs. Her grandmother had taught her that rhythm when Evelyn was a child. Not as a song, as a warning. Stop. She stepped closer before fear could stop her. Commander Ethan Graves moved between her and the bed, his black uniform perfectly still. "You were told not to approach the king." "His hand," Evelyn said. "Watch his hand." Dr. Reed exhaled sharply. "Muscle spasms. Nothing more." Tap, tap, tap. The sound was almost lost beneath the rain. Almost. Evelyn set the towels down. "He is repeating it." Lady Victoria Crowe stood near the fireplace, dressed in silver-gray silk, her expression calm enough to be frightening. "The king has been unresponsive for 14 hours. Are you suggesting every physician in this room is wrong?" Evelyn looked at Lucian's face. His eyes remained closed, but a faint tension appeared along his jaw. He was trapped inside his own body, surrounded by people who believed silence meant absence. "I am suggesting he can hear us." Dr. Reed reached for the final bottle of dark red medicine. The silver lines beneath Lucian's skin brightened before the liquid even touched the tube. Evelyn smelled something faint in the air. Burned roses. Her grandmother's kitchen. A silver spoon dropped into nightthorn sap. A warning written in an old leather notebook. Her breath caught. Lucian's finger moved once more. 3 taps. Then 2. Then 1. The message had changed. Not stop. Hurry. Dr. Reed lifted the bottle. Evelyn saw the king's pulse weaken at his throat. 1 beat. A long silence. Another beat. She stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chamber before courage could leave her. "Do not give him that blood." The single word changed the room. Commander Ethan Graves looked from Lucian's hand to Lady Victoria, then drew a slow breath. "The king has given an order." Victoria's expression remained composed, but the fire behind her cast a thin shadow across her face. "He is delirious." "He said 1 word," Evelyn replied. "And it was the same thing I was looking at." Lucian's grip loosened around her wrist. His hand fell back against the coverlet, the black stone ring catching a flash of lightning from the windows. Dr. Marcus Reed stepped closer, but stopped before touching it. "The royal seal is protected by blood law. Only the king or a sworn guardian may remove it." Commander Graves extended his hand. "Then I will." The moment his fingers neared the band, the silver lines beneath Lucian's skin flared brighter. Graves pulled back. The room chilled. Evelyn could hear the physicians shifting behind her, their confidence thinning into fear. She studied the ring more carefully. The black stone was carved with the crest of House Blackwood, but the edges were too sharp, too new. She had polished the king's ceremonial objects before. Ancient silver never held light that cleanly. "That is not his ring," she said. Lady Victoria turned toward her. "Choose your next words carefully." Evelyn ignored the warning. The real seal has a small crack across the crown. I saw it 6 months ago when I cleaned the council chamber after the winter gathering. This one does not. Commander Graves bent closer. His eyes narrowed. She is right. Dr. Reed stared at the ring as though it had become a living thing. A replacement could not pass the royal wards. Unless someone with authority carried it through, Evelyn said. Silence followed. Not empty silence. Accusing silence. Lady Victoria crossed the room with measured steps. You are building a fantasy from dust and servant gossip. Then let me prove it. Evelyn looked at Dr. Reed. Bring warm water, plain salt, and a piece of untreated silver. Reed did not move. Graves did. Do it. Within moments, a young physician placed the items on a side table. Evelyn poured the water into a glass bowl, added the salt, and lowered the silver into it. Her hands trembled, but she kept her breathing steady. Her grandmother's lessons returned in fragments. Never trust the surface. Poison hides where pride refuses to look. Evelyn wrapped Lucian's hand in a clean cloth and gently turned the ring. It resisted at first. Then it slid free. The instant it left his finger, Lucian drew a deeper breath. The sound was quiet, but every person in the chamber heard it. The silver lines stopped moving. Dr. Reed checked the pulse at Lucian's throat. Stronger, he whispered. Not stable, but stronger. Evelyn placed the ring into the bowl. The water remained clear for 3 seconds. Then dark threads curled from beneath the black stone, spreading through the water like smoke. A small symbol appeared along the inner band, hidden under a layer of polished metal. Dr. Reed leaned closer. That mark belongs to the Regency Council. Commander Graves lifted his gaze toward Victoria. For the first time, her calm expression broke. Only slightly. Only long enough for Evelyn to see it. Seal the chamber, Graves ordered. The guards moved toward the doors. Victoria did not step back. You are making a grave mistake. Evelyn looked at the darkened water, then at Lucian's pale face. No, she said softly. The mistake was believing the ring was meant to kill him quickly. Dr. Reed turned toward her. What do you mean? Evelyn watched the black threads continue to spread. It was meant to keep him alive just long enough for someone else to take his throne. Commander Ethan Graves moved first. 2 guards crossed the chamber and closed the carved doors, while 3 others took positions beneath the windows. The click of the locks sounded louder than the thunder outside. Lady Victoria Crow watched them without protest. That frightened Evelyn more than anger would have. Dr. Marcus Reed lifted the glass bowl toward the light. The Regency's symbol inside the ring remained visible beneath the dark water. This seal authorizes emergency succession, he said. It can only be used if the king is declared incapable of ruling. Which happens at sunrise, Graves replied. Victoria's gaze sharpened. You are forgetting yourself, Commander. No, he said. I am remembering my oath. Lucian's breathing grew steadier, but he did not wake. The silver lines beneath his skin had stopped climbing, yet they had not faded. Evelyn looked from the ring to the medicine bottles. Something still felt wrong. Removing the source should have weakened the poison. Instead, it had only stopped the damage from spreading. The ring did not create all of this, she said. Dr. Reed turned toward her. What else could it have done? It changed the treatment. Every dose carried the reaction deeper. She looked at the dark veins of color twisting through the bowl. But the first dose had to begin somewhere. Victoria gave a quiet laugh. Now the maid intends to rewrite medicine. Evelyn approached the table where the physicians had arranged their instruments. There were silver needles, sealed vials, strips of linen, and 3 handwritten charts. She studied the times recorded beside each treatment. Lucian had collapsed shortly after the council meeting. His condition had worsened every 4 hours, exactly when the doctors replaced the medicine. But one mark appeared before the first dose. A faint drop in body temperature. A change in pulse. What did he touch before he collapsed? Evelyn asked. No one answered. Graves looked at Victoria. The council table. The treaty documents. His ceremonial cup. And the ring, Dr. Reed added. Evelyn shook her head. The ring was already on his hand. Something activated it. Lightning flashed again. For 1 second, the black stone gleamed red beneath the water. Not from the lightning. From the fireplace. Evelyn lifted the bowl and carried it closer to the flames. The symbol brightened. The dark threads moved faster. Dr. Reed stepped beside her. Heat increases the reaction. Not heat, Evelyn said. Firelight. She remembered the Western Council chamber, where blue candles burned during royal votes. Candles made from winter resin and powdered moonstone. Her grandmother had once written about fall seals that awakened only beneath enchanted flame. Evelyn turned to Graves. What color were the candles during the meeting? His expression changed. Red. Victoria finally moved. This has gone far enough. She stepped toward the doors, but the guards did not yield. Graves faced her fully. Who changed the council candles? Victoria's voice remained calm. Servants make mistakes. Not with royal flame, he said. Dr. Reed examined Lucian's wrist. If the ring was activated during the meeting, then the poison began before he entered this room. Evelyn looked at the black stone, then at Lucian's still face. A terrible understanding settled over her. The ring had not simply weakened him. It had been recording every treatment, every heartbeat, every moment his strength failed. Someone is not waiting for him to die, she whispered. Someone is measuring how close he is. At that moment, the black stone cracked with a soft sound. A red light appeared inside it. 3 slow pulses. Then a voice, distant and distorted, filled the chamber. Is the king ready for sunrise? No one answered the voice. The red light inside the cracked stone pulsed again, slower this time, as though whoever waited on the other side had begun to doubt the silence. Commander Ethan Graves lifted one hand, warning everyone to remain still. Lady Victoria Crow stood near the locked doors, her face composed once more, but Evelyn saw the smallest movement in her throat. Fear. Dr. Marcus Reed placed the bowl on the table. Do not speak, he whispered. The distant voice returned. The council chamber is prepared. If Blackwood cannot stand before sunrise, succession will proceed. Graves looked at Victoria. Who is that? I do not recognize the voice. You recognize the question. Her eyes cooled. Every member of the Regency Council knows the law. Evelyn watched the red light inside the stone. 3 pulses. A pause. Then 2. The same pattern Lucian had tapped against the bed. Her breath caught. The ring had not only carried messages outward, it had carried them inward. Lucian had heard every command sent through it while he lay trapped and unable to speak. She moved toward him. He knew. Dr. Reed followed. Knew what? That they were listening. That is why he warned us without using his voice. Lucian's hand twitched beneath the coverlet. Evelyn leaned close enough to see a faint shadow moving beneath his eyelids. His breathing changed. Not stronger. More deliberate. Dr. Reed checked his pulse. He is trying to wake. Lady Victoria stepped forward. Then keep the room quiet. The red light flared. The voice sharpened. Report. Evelyn looked at Graves. An idea formed, dangerous but clear. Answer them. He stared at her. With what? Tell them the king is ready. Dr. Reed shook his head. That will bring them here. Exactly. Victoria's attention snapped toward Evelyn. You would invite conspirators into the manor while the king is defenseless? They already believe he is defenseless, Evelyn said. That is the only advantage we have. Graves considered the ring, then the guards at the doors. And when they arrive, we learn who comes to claim the throne. Silence tightened around them. Then Graves bent over the bowl. The king will be presented at sunrise, he said, making his voice flat and formal. Prepare the succession chamber. The red light dimmed. At last, the distant voice replied. Keep the maid away from him. She notices too much. Evelyn felt every face turn toward her. The light vanished. The stone went dark. Dr. Reed stared at the ring. They know who she is. They know she was in this room, Graves corrected. Which means someone here has already reported her. His gaze moved across the physicians. Several stepped back. One looked toward the floor, another toward the windows. Lady Victoria remained perfectly still. Then Lucian inhaled sharply. His eyes opened, silver at first, then deep crimson around the edges. Every person in the chamber lowered their head except Evelyn, who was too startled to move. His gaze found her immediately. How long? He asked, his voice weak but absolute. 14 hours, Dr. Reed answered. Lucian ignored him. His attention stayed on Evelyn. You heard the ring. She nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. And you removed it? Yes. His eyes shifted toward the dark bowl. For a moment, something like anger passed through his face, but it was controlled, ancient, cold. Then they know their plan failed. Graves stepped closer. We told them succession would proceed. Lucian looked at him, then back at Evelyn. Good. He pushed himself upright despite Dr. Reed's protest. The effort drained color from his already pale face, but his voice did not weaken. Lock every gate. Extinguish every red candle. No one leaves Blackthorn Manor before sunrise. Then his gaze hardened. And keep Evelyn Harper beside me. She is no longer a servant in this matter. She is the witness they will try to silence first. The chamber emptied under Lucian's command until only Evelyn, Commander Ethan Graves, and Dr. Marcus Reed remained. Rain pressed against the windows, softer now, but the silence inside Blackthorn Manor had become heavier. Lucian sat against the carved headboard, one hand resting over his chest. Without the false ring, the silver lines beneath his skin had begun to fade, yet every breath still demanded effort. His face was whiter than candle wax, his dark hair falling across his forehead, but his eyes had regained their ancient focus. "How did you understand the tapping?" he asked. Evelyn stood near the foot of the bed, uncertain whether she was permitted to move closer. "My grandmother taught it to me. As a servant's signal? As a warning system. 3 taps meant stop. 3. Then 2. Then 1 meant hurry." Lucian's gaze sharpened. What was her name? Evelyn hesitated. She had learned early that powerful people rarely asked about poor families unless they wanted something from them. Margaret Harper. The effect was immediate. Lucian stopped breathing for one long second. Commander Graves turned toward him. Dr. Reed lowered the medical chart in his hand. "That is impossible," Lucian said. "She died before you were born. I was 10 when she died." Evelyn's voice remained quiet. "She raised me after my mother became ill." Lucian studied her face as though searching for a history hidden beneath her skin. "Did she ever speak of this court?" "Never directly. She kept an old leather notebook filled with remedies, symbols, and stories she called superstitions. I thought they were lessons from another time." "Where is the notebook?" "In my room." Graves moved toward the door, but Lucian raised one hand. "No guards. You bring it yourself." Evelyn looked at him. "You believe someone inside the manor cannot be trusted. I believe someone inside this manor replaced a royal seal, corrupted my treatment, and listened while I lost the ability to speak." His voice remained calm, which made the truth sound even colder. "Trust is a luxury I will reconsider after sunrise." Dr. Reed approached the bed. "Your Majesty, you should conserve your strength." Lucian ignored him. "What else did Margaret teach you?" Evelyn thought of afternoons in a narrow kitchen, dried herbs hanging above the stove, her grandmother's tired hands guiding hers over faded pages. "She taught me to notice what did not belong. A scent in clean water. A shadow beneath polished metal. A silence where there should be sound." Lucian's expression changed. Not softened. Deepened. Those were not household lessons. Then what were they? Before he could answer, Graves returned from the door. "The eastern corridor has been sealed. The succession council is already gathering below." Lucian pushed the coverlet aside and placed his feet on the floor. Dr. Reed objected, but Lucian stood. For a moment, his balance failed. Evelyn stepped forward without thinking and caught his arm. The room chilled as his power stirred, yet he did not pull away. He looked down at her hand, then at her face. "Margaret Harper was my mother's personal healer," he said. 30 years ago, she was accused of stealing a royal cipher and betraying this house. Evelyn's fingers tightened slightly against his sleeve. "My grandmother was not a traitor." "I know," Lucian replied. "Because the night she disappeared, she left me the same warning you gave tonight." A clock sounded somewhere beyond the chamber. "For slow strikes." Lucian turned toward the locked doors. "Bring me her notebook, Evelyn." If Margaret prepared you to recognize that ring, then she knew this moment would come. He paused, his crimson gaze settling on her. The question is how she knew someone would try again. Evelyn crossed the eastern corridor alone, carrying a single candle while Blackthorn Manor held its breath around her. The storm had weakened, but water still traced silver paths down the tall windows. Guards stood at every archway, their faces unreadable, their hands resting near the clasps of their cloaks. No one stopped her. The king had ordered that she retrieve the notebook herself, and in Blackthorn Manor, even suspicion bowed to his command. Her room was small, tucked beneath the servants' stairs, with one narrow bed, one wooden chair, and a chest that held nearly everything she owned. Evelyn knelt beside it and lifted the false bottom her grandmother had taught her to hide when she was 12. Beneath 2 folded dresses lay the leather notebook, dark with age, its edges softened by years of use. The moment she touched it, a faint warmth moved through the cover. Evelyn froze. The notebook had never done that before. She carried it back through the corridor, each step faster than the last. When she entered the royal chamber, Lucian was standing beside the window in a black coat Commander Graves had helped him put on. He looked stronger from a distance, but Evelyn saw the truth in the tension of his shoulders and the way one hand remained pressed against the stone ledge. Dr. Marcus Reed stood near the bed, arranging sealed vials. Graves guarded the door. Lucian turned as Evelyn approached. His gaze fell on the notebook, and something ancient passed through his expression. "Open it," he said. Evelyn placed the book on the table. The first pages held remedies she knew well, mixtures for fever, sleeplessness, and weak lungs. Farther in, the handwriting changed. The letters became smaller, sharper. Symbols filled the margins. Lucian stepped closer. There. He pointed to a circle crossed by 3 lines, the same mark hidden inside the false ring. Evelyn turned the page. A sentence appeared beneath it in faded ink. "The false crown does not kill the king. It weakens him until the court kills his authority for him." Dr. Reed leaned over the table. She knew the purpose of the device. "Keep reading," Lucian said. Evelyn followed the next lines. "The poison will hide inside treatment. The physicians will believe they are saving him. The witness must watch the metal, the flame, and the blood." Her throat tightened. "The witness." Graves looked at her. "She meant you. She could not have known I would work here." Lucian's eyes remained fixed on the page. Margaret did not predict chance. She prepared for a bloodline. Evelyn turned another page and found a list of names. Margaret Harper, Helen Harper, Rose Harper, Evelyn Harper. Her own name had been written years before she was born. The candle flame bent toward the book. A final line appeared beneath the ink, darkening as if newly written. "When the king survives, the traitor will come wearing the face of a healer." Silence settled over the chamber. Evelyn looked at Dr. Reed. His face had gone pale. "You knew about the ring," she said. Reed closed his eyes. "Not at first." Graves stepped between him and the door. "Explain." Reed reached slowly into his coat and removed a small silver key. 3 nights ago, my daughter was taken from her school. I received instructions. Continue the treatment. Ask no questions. If I refused, I would never see her again. His voice broke, but he forced himself to continue. I discovered the contamination after the 2nd dose. By then, they were watching every vial, every chart, every word I spoke. Lucian's expression became cold enough to quiet the room. "Who gave the orders?" Reed looked toward the locked doors. "Lady Victoria." Before anyone could respond, the corridor bells began to ring. Once, twice, then 7 times. Graves turned sharply. "The Succession Council has entered the Great Hall." Reed placed the silver key beside the notebook. "There is more. Victoria does not intend to wait until sunrise." Lucian lifted his gaze. "What does she intend?" Reed swallowed. "She plans to declare you dead within the hour." Lucian closed the notebook with one hand. The sound was quiet, but it ended every argument in the chamber. "Then we will arrive before she finishes the lie." Dr. Marcus Reed stepped forward. "Your Majesty, you can barely stand. That is what Victoria expects." Lucian turned to Commander Ethan Graves. "Open the passage to the Great Hall. Place loyal guards at every exit, but do not reveal them until I give the order." Graves bowed once and left. Evelyn gathered the false ring, the darkened silver dish, and her grandmother's notebook. Lucian watched her hands. "You will walk beside me. The council will not listen to a maid. They will listen when I tell them to." His answer carried no anger, only certainty. Minutes later, the hidden doors behind the throne opened into the Great Hall. More than 100 nobles stood beneath blue crystal lights, dressed in black and silver. At the center of the chamber, Lady Victoria Crow faced the empty throne. "King Lucian Blackwood has fallen," she announced. "By ancient law, the regency must now preserve the realm." A murmur moved through the hall. Then Lucian stepped from the shadows. "Preserve it from whom?" The room froze. Victoria turned slowly. For one brief moment, shock stripped away her composure. Lucian's face remained deathly pale, and every step cost him strength, but the nobles lowered their heads as he crossed the floor. Evelyn walked at his right side with the notebook held against her chest. Dr. Reed followed behind them. Victoria recovered first. "Your Majesty, You should be under medical care. I was, Lucian replied. That was the problem. He stopped before the council table. Evelyn placed the glass bowl on its polished surface. The false ring lay beneath the black water, its hidden symbol visible to everyone nearest the front. This is an imitation of the royal seal, Lucian said. It was activated during yesterday's council meeting, then used to corrupt every treatment meant to save me. Victoria looked at Evelyn. And your proof comes from a servant who admits she handled the evidence. Laughter stirred among several nobles, uncertain and brief. Evelyn opened Margaret's notebook. Her voice trembled at first, but she did not lower it. The poison reacts to enchanted flame and untreated silver. Anyone in this room may test it. Victoria smiled faintly. Kitchen tricks. Then you will not object. Evelyn took the false ring from the bowl with a cloth and lowered it into a cup of clear medicine Dr. Reed had prepared. Nothing happened. Victoria's smile widened. Evelyn moved the cup beneath one of the red ceremonial candles arranged beside the succession documents. The liquid turned black in seconds. The nobles recoiled. A crimson symbol appeared across the inner band. The same symbol was stamped into the wax seal on Victoria's declaration. Silence swallowed the hall. Dr. Reed stepped forward and placed the silver key beside the document. Lady Victoria ordered me to continue the treatment after she took my daughter. She said the king needed to remain alive until the transfer of power became legal. Victoria's face hardened. A frightened father will say anything. Then answer one question, Evelyn said. Why did the voice inside the ring know I was beside the king? Victoria's eyes moved toward her before she could stop them. Lucian saw it. So did the council. The great doors closed behind them. Guards appeared along the upper gallery. Lucian rested one hand on the table, steadying himself, and the blue lights dimmed beneath the weight of his power. You tried to bury the truth beneath rank, he said. But truth has never cared who wears the crown and who carries the towels. Victoria stepped back. Lucian's gaze turned cold. Now tell this court where Dr. Reed's daughter is being held. Lady Victoria Crow looked around the great hall, searching for an ally, but every noble had stepped away from her. The distance between them widened until she stood alone beside the succession table. Lucian did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Where is Dr. Reed's daughter? Victoria's composure finally cracked. The old chapel beyond the northern gardens. Commander Ethan Graves gave a silent signal. For guards disappeared through the side doors. Dr. Marcus Reed closed his eyes, relief and fear passing across his face at once. If she is harmed, he began, but Lucian stopped him with a glance. She will be returned. Victoria straightened. You cannot condemn me on the word of a physician who betrayed his oath and a servant carrying a book of superstitions. Evelyn opened Margaret's notebook to the page bearing the regency mark. This book described the false seal before I ever entered this hall. She placed it beside the blackened medicine. It explained the poisoned treatment, the enchanted flame, and the reason the king was kept alive. Everything happened exactly as written. One of the eldest council members stepped forward. The regency seal on Lady Victoria's declaration matches the symbol inside the ring. Another lowered his head. The evidence is sufficient. Victoria looked toward Lucian. This kingdom needed certainty. You have ruled for centuries while the court waited for a future you refused to name. Lucian's pale face revealed nothing. So you created one by weakening me. I protected the realm from instability. You protected your ambition. The blue crystal lights above them flickered as his power moved through the chamber. He remained weak, but the authority in his voice was unbroken. Victoria Crow, your council rank is revoked. Your estates will be placed under royal review, and you will remain confined until every person involved has been identified. The guards approached without force. Victoria did not resist. As she passed Evelyn, she whispered, "You believe you saved him. You have only made yourself visible." Evelyn felt cold settle beneath her skin. Before she could answer, the great doors opened. Commander Graves returned with a teenage girl wrapped in a gray cloak. Dr. Reed crossed the hall and gathered his daughter into his arms, repeating her name as though he had feared he would never speak it again. The council lowered their heads to Lucian. The crisis had ended. Yet when Evelyn looked at him, she saw his hand tighten against the table. His strength was fading again. She moved beside him before anyone else noticed. You need to sit down. A king does not collapse in front of a council that nearly replaced him. then lean on someone they cannot see. For the first time that night, the edge of a smile touched his face. He allowed her to steady him as the chamber emptied. Near the throne, Lucian looked down at her wrist. A thin silver line had appeared beneath her skin. Evelyn stared at it. The mark curved into the shape of the Blackwood crown. Margaret's notebook opened by itself on the council table. New words darkened across the final page. The false ring chooses a witness. Once the king survives, the bond passes to the one who saved him. Lucian read the sentence and went still. What does it mean? Evelyn asked. His crimson eyes lifted to hers, and for the first time, the ancient vampire king looked afraid. It means the poison is no longer connected to me. The silver mark pulsed once beneath her skin. Lucian took her hand carefully. It is connected to you.